Hey everybody, welcome back. Our heat wave here is officially over. We had over 100-degree temperature for the last 4 days, and after that it's been in the 90s still, but at least our nights are not as cold, not as hot. It was in the 80s before, so it was getting really hot and would not cool down through the night. In the 80s at night, not during the day. It was 107, 104, 102 during the day, and then by 11 it would be still in the 90s. So I want to show you how our gardens did this heat wave. We didn't do anything to protect it per se, but there's a couple lessons that we've learned from this, and I want to share them with you so you can perhaps maybe save your plants a little bit better if you do have a heat wave, or you know what to do. So we'll start with our peppers here, bell peppers. We got bell peppers. Let me show you the bell peppers. Okay, so we have these bell peppers here that are growing in this garden bed. Like I said in our previous videos, we water everything through this. So this works great in the heat wave because the water penetrates deep in the soil and it keeps everything moist. It doesn't spray anything on the plants to burn it. But you can still see on some of the plants that were very open to the sun, to the heat, that they had heat damage or sun damage on them. And it's not as bad on the bell peppers or the spicy peppers here. Most of these peppers did fine. Our beans, they did great. Green beans. Cucumbers are doing really well. Did not affect the plants themselves at all, basically. The only effect that we did have on some of these plants is some of them started to have more of a bitter taste to it, and that's due to lack of water on them. So the biggest effect that the sun had was on tomatoes. These two rows here are our tomatoes, and you can see we did not trellis them because I did not have time to build a trellising system for them. These trellises here that I have, they have a cable on here, as you can see, and this is where we grow our tomatoes. But this year we rotate our crops, and I was supposed to build new trellises for here, but I didn't. Usually when we have them growing on the trellis system, I snip the growth, snip them, clean them up, and the plants are really exposed. When the tomatoes are exposed to sunlight or to the heat, this is what happens. Look at this tomato, it's pretty much useless. It's not usable. I mean, this is just going to be chicken feed. A lot of these plants that were exposed, they did get some sun damage or heat damage right here, and not all of them. And the saving grace on these plants is that they're so overgrown. Because of the overgrowth of the leaves, they provided some shades to these plants. If I did not have any of these plants or any of these leaves overgrown, then I would have a lot more sun damage. Look at this beautiful tomato. Oh, these yellow varieties, honestly, these yellow varieties are my favorite. They are not as sour, they're more sweet, and they taste really, really well, really good. This is another variety that we really like. So overall, these plants here, they did pretty good. We did get some sun damage. It wasn't too bad. There's some loss, maybe, handful of tomatoes that got damaged, but you can see the same thing on this plant here. Look how overgrown this tomato is. But underneath, there's a ton of tomatoes that did not get any damage because of the protection from the sun by the leaves. Back at the cucumbers here, our cucumbers are doing really well. The heat did not affect them at all. The plants are thriving, and there is no damage to the leaves, and that's because of the irrigation that we use, the drip irrigation on watering. The raspberries plants here are not doing bad also, because all of this dry stuff that's already dying, that's this year's growth, that needs to be cut back, and all the new shoots are doing really well. So overall, the tomatoes are the worst hit plants in this heat wave. What to do in order to protect your tomatoes from sun is something that we've been looking at, because when we grow them on our trellises that's more exposed to the sun, we get sun damage a lot more. We'll get back to the garden in a minute. I'll just want to show you a quick peek at the remodel that we're doing at our entryway. So this is our entryway the existing door to our house. We are adding a little bit of space. Basically, the room was there, the floor was not there, so we added a subfloor, added insulation, put a plastic underneath to cover the concrete, build everything out of pressure treated wood, as well as added rigid installation on there. We also added this space here that will be a closet for coat hanging and shoe closet, basically, as you enter the house. Right now we don't have that, so it's kind of a mess inside, because as you enter the house, you're right in the living room. So adding this space will give us more usable and more friendly space that we will be able to separate the entryway from the house, from the living room. We will be moving this door to the right as you look at it. I bought new glass that's more modern, square glass. I will be changing and cutting this door out, cutting the glass out and repairing it. The door was expensive to buy new, and it's fully functional. It just needs to be repainted and a new glass put in. So once that's done, the new door put in here, it will be great. Let's go back to the garden and look at what's going on. So they do sell these shade cloths that you can put on, and if you have your tomatoes or your plants that are open to the sun, to the element more, don't have a lot of leaves, and they get exposed to that PM hot sun, I highly recommend putting up those shade cloths to protect the plants from the heat of the sun, because otherwise you'll get a lot more damage from the sun if you have heat waves. Last 3 years our area here has been getting hotter temperature, and it's been getting hotter and drier every year. So probably for next year, once I get my beds built out with the trellis system, I will be putting new I will be getting some shade cloth to put onto the plants, because otherwise we would just be losing a lot of crop. Hopefully this end of this year we will clean this area up, and I'll have a chance to build the trellises that I have over there. I'll probably do another video with that. I already got all the material for it. I just got to weld them together and put them up, and then get everything going. There's a lot of stuff going on in the garden right now, as well as later throughout this year. Throughout this month, August, we have to do a lot of pruning that requires for the trees that we have before it gets colder. So there's more work to be done always. Never ending story here. But that's the results of the heat wave. Overall, I'm okay with it. I'm not too disappointed on how much crop got destroyed by it, but there was some damage to it, which we kind of expected that it's going to happen. Lessons from this: if you do have a heat wave coming up, buy a shade cloth, as well as make sure you increase your watering, because like cucumbers, they started to get bitter ends on it, and that's because of not enough water in the ground from that. So increasing watering and putting up a shade cloth. Thank you for watching. We'll be back with another video shortly, and subscribe to our channel. We'll show you what's going to be happening around our property here, how we're going to be doing and redesigning some of these plants here. Hopefully that'll give you some ideas what to do in your garden.